Hey, everybody. Good morning and welcome to today's episode of The Wisdom of the Soul. I appreciate you joining us today live. Perhaps you're listening to the podcast and maybe the YouTube video in any event. We appreciate you joining us today. If you are watching YouTube, please subscribe, like, and comment. Same with the podcast, Apple Podcasts and an app called Podchaser, both accept reviews and ratings. So that would be great if you rated and reviewed. What it does is lift us in keyword searches and helps more people find us. So if you can support us that way, that'd be great. A couple of people who are here regularly have been sharing these programs on their websites and their Facebook and Twitter and retweets and such. And I really appreciate that support too. So give it a think. If you're benefiting from listening to this class, then maybe you know a friend, an associate, someone in your family who could benefit as well. Share. Okay. That was a big deal when the internet first started. And then we sort of forgot about it. Sharing is something people rarely do anymore. Things going viral less often. But I'm not interested in going viral. It's an esoteric class. It's not for most people. Actually, it is for everyone, but I understand that most people are not really interested in self-discovery or self-awareness, and so that's fine. But we can cultivate those who are desperately searching for this kind of material. So thanks for your support in that. I wanted to mention that. Also, though I don't discuss this often enough, I still do private clients by telephone, WhatsApp, Zoom. And if you're interested in a private intensive one or a series, we usually play it by ear. The first one's free intake session. And well, there's a lot of people that's all they need, and they decide that they got their question answered in that free intake session. They got reoriented, and or they got a book title or a technique or a way to go, and that's all they need. Others sign up for a series, and or a la carte, one intensive at a time. But private work is very, very powerful, and I enjoy doing it. I only take a few clients per week because I'm basically retired, but I do enjoy it and people benefit from it. So if you want to try the free intro, go to my main website, michaelbenner.com. You'll see a red circle. You click on that and you'll get access to my online calendar, and you can schedule it yourself right there from whatever is available. Pretty slick. You'll get an email immediately that'll confirm it and a reminder the day before our session. Today we're going to follow on.
Michael, sorry,
Yep.
Can I make a quick announcement? I just want, because we talked about just reminding people when you have questions or comments to please send them to whoever the co-host is. Michael doesn't usually check the chat box. So if Melinda's the co-host, then you want to send your questions and comments to her. And if I'm the co-host, you want to send them to me. And this week, Melinda is the co-host.
Thank you. I had forgotten to mention that. Thank you. It's a good time to thank both Hannah and Melinda for their help, their persistent presence here. Because I could not do this alone, or if I did, it would be pretty awkward. I have a vision challenge. I see pretty well. I'm just this side of being able to drive a car, but I can still see my wife's beautiful smile, and I can read on the computer if I zoom in. But managing something like this without help would be a problem. So when we get to the Q&A, or even before that, anytime during the class, if a question or comment comes up, put it in the chat box, and as Hannah just said, address it to the co-host who this week is Melinda. We talked about visualization and guided imagery last week, and so this week I'd like to talk about what are we going to visualize. In other words, goal setting. Goal setting includes our dreams and our desires. And it may sound odd for someone like me who has as much interest as I do, and even fascination with mindfulness and living in the moment and acceptance and these concepts, to be talking about goal setting. But two things. First of all, as I said last week, we need to develop our personality, our individuality, what in the East is called our Jiva nature, before we can move beyond it. You could not start elementary school with calculus or algebra. You need to learn arithmetic first. And so too, just like psychology leads to philosophy, very difficult to study philosophy without a sense of psychology and sociology. These things build on each other, right? So in the same way, we need to have a sense of what it means to set a goal. And then to live in the moment means to not be attached to the outcome. So let me talk about this briefly before we do the opening meditation. We still have people coming in. Let's take the word desire. The title of today's class is Dreams, Desires, and Goals. Much is said in Eastern philosophy and Buddhism in particular about the way desire sets us up for suffering. If we could but accept life as it is, as it unfolds, and not judge it, we could avoid a lot of disappointment, a lot of self-imposed pain and suffering. An example that I pull on personally quite a bit, maybe it works for you, is to think of something as simple as the weather. And if you're looking forward to going outside to play tennis or golf or ride your bike or go on a hike, and it rains, you can be disappointed in that. And some people might even be quite upset or even angry, though there's no one to be angry at, you know, unless you personify the weather and blame God somehow, as if God is the weatherman and spoiled your day, and why would God do such a thing? But if you don't judge the rain, it's just raining. It's not a good rain. It's not a bad rain. And yes, you had a goal. You had an objective. You had a plan or a strategy to go outside today. And it's understandable that you'd be disappointed when you first realize it's raining. I have to change my plan. I can't do that. But so many of us hold on to that, don't you see? We carry that disappointment. And some of us accumulate, we save it, we cash it away as evidence that life is unfair because we're building a case. I hope this makes sense to you because it's very common. We're building a case that life is unfair and we are a victim of a life that's being done to us. As if I'm miserable, but I have no responsibility in it at all. I have nothing to do with the fact that I'm unhappy in my life. It's all these other people. And of course, advertisers play into that, right? Advertising by its very nature is based on fear and upsetting you. And you have a problem and you're not happy. But if you buy this product or this service and get it now, because there's a limited supply, get yours before we run out, then you will be happy. So advertising that continual, dozens a day, right, that we're exposed to everywhere, internet, YouTube. Isn't that frustrating as hell? You're watching YouTube and then they do a 10-second ad in the middle of a YouTube, unless you subscribe. Or the radio. I don't suppose many people listen to the radio, but television and the internet, just ads constantly. And it's unsettling. And then politicians, of course. So much of our worldview is framed around politics. And again, it's somebody else that's doing your life to you. You gotta, if you're gonna be happy, if you're really going to transcend all of this nonsense, you gotta be aware of where it's coming from. And so if we can learn not to be disappointed by accepting life in the moment as it is, that might suggest to you that therefore we cannot have goals. You see my point? Because if I don't get there, or if I get there and it's different than I expected, it's not all that, or I end up in some place that's similar, but not quite the goal I wanted to, not the objective I was looking for, then I'm disappointed in myself. I get frustrated and I stop setting goals. So just because the noble truths of Buddhism begin, number one, with there is suffering, and the second noble truth, it's because of your desire nature. If you would stop desiring and just accept, then you wouldn't suffer. That doesn't mean that there are not worthy desires that we can cultivate and pursue. It does not mean that we should not set goals and just be these blobs of protoplasm that'll allow life to roll over us. We can have dreams, we can cultivate our desires, and we can set and attain goals. The secret is not to be attached to the outcome. Dream the dream, pursue the desire, set the goal, and then accept what comes about. You may think that I've attained the goal and this is the best I'm going to do, so I only got 65% of what I wanted. I'm going to have to settle for that. Well, maybe that's just you're 65% of the way there. And maybe you get to the goal and there's even more, and you go beyond what you thought was fulfillment of the goal. Be adventurous. Just don't cling to your need for the outcome, the result to be exactly as you intended it to be. And yet, nevertheless, we'll discuss today the value of having clear, specific, and detailed goals. It's just that you get to change your mind and reorient as you approach them. That's just a little bit of what we're going to touch on today, because I think we need to integrate as we move from almost a full year of esoteric philosophy, a focus on consciousness and the context of spirituality. That's really the difference, by the way, between spirituality from a philosophical point of view and from a religious point of view, is I don't know of any religion that talks about consciousness. I've never in any religious setting heard a discussion of higher consciousness or expanded awareness. They call it love, and that's okay, except that many people think of love merely as some kind of affinity or emotional warmth or presence or connection, which it is, but it's so much more than that. It's consciousness. And so one of the reasons that people, particularly in the West, are moving toward more mystical Eastern philosophies and the mysticism of Middle Eastern philosophies as well, is they're looking for this expanded awareness and this higher consciousness. It doesn't mean you reject all of religion. It just means, you know, there's so much more. So having set up today's class in that way, let's do our opening focus, a meditation. And group meditation is always great. I'd like you, I perhaps should mention this more. I'd like you to consider that when you attend this live Zoom class, you're doing a group meditation with the people who are in the class, but I'd like you to consider that you're also entering the group of the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people all around the world who are meditating coincidentally at the same time. And beyond that, you may even wish to consider that the oversoul, all the souls in heaven, to use a Christian way of talking about it, or the essence of the plane of souls, the above and free of form, astral plane, or whatever you wish to call it, the state of nirvana, of expanded consciousness, but those who are between lives in the Bardo state, what do? What are they doing? They're meditating continually, see? When you're between lives, you're in constant, perpetual meditation. You don't have a physical body. You are pure awareness. So you are by your very nature in meditation. So consider when you do a group meditation, that's 2 or more. When 2 or more gather in my name, remember? Something special begins to happen. So it's not just the people in the class. It's all the people in the world incarnate, and even consider the group. And that's universal. Could be trillions. What goes beyond a trillion, a quadrillion? I don't even know. Billions and billions and billions of souls across the universe in meditation. You're entering that group, even when you meditate alone, because obviously you're never alone. Just add the L and it's all one. Close your eyes. Take 3 or 4 nice, slow, deep breaths. And each time you exhale slowly, create and sense a letting go feeling. Pulling in strength and power as you inhale. Hold for just a beat. And as you exhale, feel like a balloon releasing the air, you know. Inhaling, and each time you exhale, feel a softening like butter on a warm day. Create and sense a letting go feeling from head to toe, yielding to relaxation, softening, reminding yourself that you're very, very safe right now. That you can drop the armoring, let go of the physical tension, even the little micro tension. And feel yourself blossoming, blooming, standing open and receptive to the full light of day. Standing receptive to the downward impress of spirit flowing into matter, and energy precipitating down like a gentle rain It comes into the top of your head and slowly fills you with a gentle warmth, a light, a glow that vivifies you and empowers you, enlightens you, restoring and renewing, recharging your batteries. And at the same time, feel grounded, rooted to the earth. So that indeed, like a battery, you're recharged at both ends. Spirit, sky, and on the other end, the grounding of the earth. Energy and matter. And you are the middle element between energy or spirit on one end and the mother, the matter, the mater, madre, Mother Earth, grounding you on the other end. You are the middle between spirit and matter. You are the consciousness. You are the heart center. To be aware and in form is to be both spirit and matter. You're both energy and mass. You are the consciousness, the awareness that is both sky and earth. One leg in both worlds, the intersection, the crossroads, the neck of the hourglass, the center of the cross. Just reflect on the truth. The way that resonates with you as I say it, that you are a physical being illumined and animated by a spiritual energy. You are both. And to expand our awareness, to develop ourselves, is to take ownership and responsibility for sitting at the control panel and balancing those two aspects, energy and matter. A spiritual self, a spiritual being in an animal body. Some of our thoughts come from our spiritual nature. Many of our feelings come from our spiritual nature. Though there are many impulses and instincts that come from our animal nature, they are less refined. The animal nature, often negative, self-critical, and fear-based. They center around survival and vibrate at the lowest chakras, the root and the sacral centers. Sitting in the middle as a soul-infused persona, aware of yourself as a spiritual and a physical being at once. Consider the distinctions between the impulses of the animal body, the so-called temptations. And your intuitive awareness of your higher self, the higher frequencies, the more refined thoughts of altruism, generosity, kindness, beauty, truth and wisdom, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, empathy, and compassion. And you're at choice. You choose which to embrace and which to release. In accordance with the level of awareness, the extent of your self-awareness, which we call consciousness. Part of that is a conscience, or to be conscientious, which generally is a reference to turning away from the animal nature as you reaffirm your safety in the world, at least in the present moment. And open yourself to the truth and the wisdom, the beauty and the strength and the power of the higher frequencies, the more refined, enlightened passions of a spiritual being that recognizes its connection to all things. And the occasional feeling that merits development, that you really are the one life, the one thing. Not a separate one, but the whole. What the word holy comes from. Holism, holistic, the all that is. And this is the grand paradox of personal development, for I am incarnated in a physical body made out of the clays and the minerals of this earth planet. From bits of exploded star, we are indeed stardust. And yet consciousness stands between this material form and the energy or the spirit, the breath that animates us and illumines us, that is awareness itself. To find that balance, to contemplate that balance, that centeredness, that integration, in and of itself is a wonderful meditation. Seek to develop both aspects. Our individuality, our uniqueness, for we have fingerprint evidence and DNA proof of our individuality in a universe that refuses to even replicate snowflakes. You are not only unique, you are essential as a being in form incarnate. though somewhat enigmatic, we are at the same time the one. We are whole. Say to yourself silently and internally, there's only one of us here. Or if you wish, ponder it this way. What if there were only one of us here? And I am an extension, a fragment, an element, an aspect of that oneness. As a single tree has many branches, countless leaves, fruits and nuts and seeds and flowers and multiplicity of forms as it branches out, so too in the earth, the root system branching out. But it's one tree. So both things can be true. Find that balance. And simply affirm it. I am that. Tisvat Asi. I am that. I'm not this one or that one. I am all that. I am. Not I think, therefore I am. Not I feel, therefore I am. Simply the awareness that I am that. I am awake. I am awake. What a miracle. I am aware. Some days more than others. Sometimes I wish I were more aware than I found myself being. That's why we're here, to wake up. And I surely do not mean woke in the political sense. That is not woke or awakening. It's political silliness, binary, divisive by its nature, fear-based, silly. I mean awakened. As an epiphany or a revelation or an aha experience. Lifts your lid, opens your heart, widens the pupils of your eyes, amazes you, fascinates you. The ineffable experience of wonder. So wonderful. Life is not wonderful sometimes. Every moment is filled with wonder. New again, fresh. Just wonderful. Aspire to recognize the wonder. The brilliance, that overused awesome word, the awe, the indescribability of the life all around you. It's just all so miraculous, so meaningful. As we awaken to the reality that for most of us, most of the time, is unseen. This is why we meditate and contemplate. This is the nature of prayer properly done. This reorientation. Recommit to a life of expanding awareness in this moment as we prepare to return to the wide awake state. Remind yourself that time invested in meditation, in contemplation, in listening to podcasts and seminars, reading inspiring literature, good books, and talking to friends about things that are meaningful instead of gossip and pettiness. Deep, grand, expansive ideas, exploring the nature of love and kindness and compassion. This is the investment that returns multiplied. Impossible to waste your time when you take the time to sit in the present moment without judgment and watch it unfold. Eyes closed or eyes open. The three gentle steps to returning to the waking state include, first, forming the intention. It's time to rise to the wide awake state, moving out into the visible world. Secondly, feel that rising up as if you're slowly awakening in the morning, at first barely aware that you're awake, and then feeling your body and the bed supporting you, and in time making the decision to sit up. That kind of rising up. And then three, eyes open. Open your eyes now, wide awake, back in the room, feeling fine, better than before, rested and refreshed, maybe a little stretch this way and a little stretch that way. Come on back, eyes open, wide awake, feeling better than before. Great. Every day is a blessing. Every day is joyous and wondrous. And when it's not, there's no one to blame. It's just we need to do the work of putting it all down and reorienting ourselves to the wonder and awe, the amazing life all around us. It's just so incredibly beautiful and miraculous in every encounter with another human being or an animal or a bird flying over your head or clouds on the horizon, light dancing down through the trees, flowers blooming, and those old like Fantasia, those silly cartoons where the flowers dance, and that's pretty psychedelic stuff. That's really what's happening all around us if we but had the eyes to see it, would open our hearts and feel safe enough. That's the key to everything, is just the deep peace and safety of knowing everything's fine. Everything's really okay. So let's talk about our dreams and our desires and our goals. We are coming up on the 1 year mark here. I think this may be, I don't know. There were a couple of weeks we didn't do classes, but I think we started in late February of 2022. So it's been almost exactly a year. And early on, we talked about a real difficult concept that Buddhists call emptiness. And yet emptiness is not an abyss so much as a freedom. It's freedom from suffering, freedom from fear, freedom from worry and doubt, really freedom from all the self-critical, self-condemning monkey mind thoughts that we put ourselves through. That's what emptiness is. It's really an understanding that life is a dream. Sometimes it's said, we'll read literature that says life is an illusion. And then you say to yourself, well, that must mean it's not real. If it's a dream, it's not real, right? If it's an illusion, my God, maybe it doesn't matter at all. What's the point? And we get real nihilistic. Nothing matters, and I can do whatever I want, and there are no consequences. Whoa, hold on. Obviously, there are consequences. There are consequences in the material world, but there's also karma, which is cause and effect. The word actually means action, and your actions have consequences. And action transcends behavior. Action is not only what you do or what you say, it's the thoughts and feelings behind that, what you do and what you say, but it's even the awareness and the intention behind the thoughts and the feelings, the speech and the behavior, right? You got to sort of daisy chain your way back. Karma is intention. There's nothing wrong with considering a negative thought unless we then hold on to it and carry it around. And like I said before the meditation, cache it away or add it to our stash of accumulating evidence that constitute the case we're building against ourselves, the evidence that we're gathering that we are helpless victims. And because of the self-fulfilling prophecy, the whole idea of life being a dream, and maybe better said, reaping what you sow, if those are the thought seeds that you're going to plant and nourish with the emotions that correspond, then what are the fruits that your harvest going to look like? Exactly what you expect them to be. And so it is with goals. And this is really, really important here. Avoiding what you do not want is not a goal. Ironically, avoiding what you don't want can lead to an obsession that attracts the very thing you seek to avoid. Don't you see? Now, don't overstate this. It doesn't mean, oh, some negative thought flashed through my mind, or I actually counseled it for a few minutes and considered doing this thing, behaving in a self-centered, selfish way, being immoral, caring so much about, from a fearful place, what benefits me, that I've discarded any interest in the impact on other people. And I consider that for a while. That doesn't mean that instantly your life's going to go to hell. We're not that good at it. So it's going to, it takes obsession, it takes holding on, it takes gripping and grasping and clutching. And that's what we do when we're afraid, right? That's what we do when we don't know and we're confused. We hold on. Even trying to push away is a holding on. Watch little kids fight. Well, not too long. You should prevent them from fighting. But if you saw little kids fighting, one of the way they protect themselves is hold on to the opponent. It's part of, when you push something away, you connect to it and hold on to it. So in terms of our thoughts and our feelings, we need to move into and through the darker thoughts, the fears. They represent what we don't know. How are you going to know them, but to move into them? So, you know, when these shadows come to us and we find ourselves feeling sorry for ourselves, or scheming, or conniving, or some sort of pity party, it's not fair, other people are happy, they have nicer things than I do, I'm a good person, I didn't kill anybody, why don't I? Poor, poor, pitiful me. All that does, that's your dream. See, that becomes your goal. Those are thought seeds. Thoughts are seedlings. If you reap what you sow, the thought, the intention behind it, the intention, the attention, the thought is nourished by the emotion, and it sprouts. The very thing you were seeking to avoid, you create. That's the problem with living a life of always avoiding and pushing away from what you do not want. In a crisis, in an emergency, it makes perfect sense for the ego nature to take over, for the amygdala to reflexively cause you to jump and run in any direction. But once you survive the fight or the flight, you take a breath, you reorient yourself. Now you need a goal. It's not enough just to avoid what you don't want, or run away, run away. Think of that Monty Python movie, run away, run away. It's not enough to spend your whole life running away from what you don't want. That obviously is not going to get you anywhere. So at some point, we need a goal. And in spite of what Buddhism says about the second noble truth, your desire nature is the cause of your suffering. If you didn't have these powerful desires, this need or set of needs for things to be other than they actually are, then you wouldn't be disappointed, you wouldn't get angry, and you wouldn't suffer so much. Nevertheless, isn't the desire to not have desires, the desire to not be desirous, still a desire? Isn't setting a goal to not have goals still setting a goal? You see the conundrum? So, you know, you got to be cool about this. You got to be flexible. You can't be rigid and binary. The problem in the second noble truth with the desire nature setting you up for suffering is that we cling to the desire to look, to manifest in a particular way. It's got to be what I want it to be. I didn't want the red one, I wanted the blue one. So we suffer. Or I wanted a relationship. My goal was to create a relationship with this kind of person. And I even made a list of all the qualities I wanted in the ideal spouse or romantic partner. but I got more than I bargained for. I didn't think about all this stuff over here. Well, that comes with the package. You got everything you wanted and you're still not happy. See, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the deftness of being balanced and fluid. It's okay to have desires. It's imperative to set goals. Just be flexible when they come back, because it's likely you're getting not only the very thing you wanted, but enfolded within it is something that you really need. And you didn't know you needed it. You only knew what you wanted. And that was hard enough. I mean, do you know what you want? Is it possible that the things that you don't have or don't have in the way you would like them to be is the result of not being clear and specific in knowing what you want and settling for good enough? So maybe we need to be more specific, more detailed, more lucid in our dreaming, in our desire nature, and in our goals. And yet still be accepting enough that as they manifest, as they unfold, be curious about the surprises that come along with them. Oh my, I wanted this and I got it, but look look what else came with it. I wasn't expecting this, and actually I don't like this part of it. Now I'm really upset. And most people, again, blame God. Who else are you going to blame? Or I can answer that question, actually. Who else are you going to blame? Maybe your spouse, or someone in your family, or a friend who betrayed you, or an associate at work who you never really liked anyway. They're to blame. The far right, political reactionary right, and the extreme left, one thing they have in common is blaming other people for the fact that they're miserable and upset. My life sucks, but I have nothing to do with it. I'm a victim of a life that's being done to me. And again, the irony is, okay, if those are the seeds you plant, that's the reality that you will manifest. You want a cruel, unjust world, you can live in the cruelest, most unjust world that you can imagine. And if you want to gather up the evidence in your mind to prove to yourself that you're right about this, okay, the universe just says yes. Dwell on that for a moment. The universe only says yes. The fertile earth says yes to every seed, to every nut. Okay, I'll grow you. Briars and brambles, poison ivy, deadly nightshade. We have some oleander in our yard, poison as hell. I'll grow that. I'll grow poisonous vegetation, if that's what you want to plant. Or delicious, nutritious fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts. Gorgeous flowers, fields of lavender, whatever you want. Ever see a huge field of sunflowers? The sugar cane in Hawaii. When I first started going to Maui in the Central Valley, it's no longer there, but it used to be filled with sugar cane. Corn syrup has destroyed the market, so there's not much sugar cane grown in Hawaii anymore. But on Sunday mornings, there was a local radio station in Maui that would play Hawaiian music. And I'd get in my rental car. I did this routinely. Every time I was on Maui on a Sunday, and I always went alone back in the day, late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s. I'd get in the rental car and I'd drive through these cane fields, especially when the cane was tall and the wind would blow the cane, and I'd listen to this Hawaiian music, and I was in heaven. I was ecstatic. Just the most beautiful thing in the world. And if you've been to Hawaii, you know the minute you step off the airplane, there's something about the oxygen, something about the air and the fragrance, and it's just so clean and pure and different up there. It's just, and having lived there with Doreen for 5 years, that never goes away. The whole time you're there, it's such an amazing place. But you got to get away from the tourist hotels. All of life can be like there. You know, Times Square in New York, dirty, filthy, overcrowded, rats running everywhere. You can still have that same bliss and that same ecstasy. Not to get too far afield here. Let me just come back to this idea of goal setting. We talked about visualization, guided imagery last week. You may think of it simply as a fantasy, to fantasize, to daydream. There's another good word. I encourage you to do this. But here's the secret. When you set a goal, when you desire a particular outcome, when you nourish your dreams and your desires, think not about how to do it, for that'll only engender more worry, more anxiety. It's not for you to figure out as a gardener or a farmer how the kernel of corn becomes a stalk with 3 or 4 ears of corn on it, each of which has 100 more kernels. It's not for us to figure out how a radish seed becomes a radish, or a watermelon seed becomes a watermelon, or an acorn becomes an oak tree. You don't need to know how am I going to do that. And you certainly want to avoid making the mistake of not setting goals, not pursuing your dreams and desires because you don't know how. I want you to consider learning to say to yourself, silently, internally, and maybe aloud to others as well, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And they say, yeah, fat chance, Michael. What a dreamer you are. You think just your optimism is going to get it done? That all you have to do is dream of already having or being or doing this goal or this particular result or desired outcome, and what, it's going to just manifest on its own? Nobody. It's going to take hard work, and I don't think you got what it takes. You don't know the right people. You don't have enough money. Do you know that 80% of businesses fail in their first 5 years? You're going to end up in bankruptcy, and we're listening to all of this. The secret of seeing your dreams come true, your goals and desires fulfilled, is to have little concern in deep meditative states about the how, but simply visualize the result as if you've already got it, as if you've taken a trip forward in time and you imagine yourself already having it, being it, doing it, whatever it happens to be. A relationship, home ownership, that really cool car, that relationship, acceptance by friends, that killer job, financial prosperity, good health. We talked about healing recently, good health, whatever your goal happens to be, more free time, right? Better balance in my life, eating good food, getting enough sleep. Don't worry about the how when you're deeply relaxed and envisioning the goal. Just imagine immersing yourself, like sitting in a hot tub, just, you know, it takes a little while to adjust to it. It's really hot, right? You got to ease your way in. But once you're in there, just sit there immersed in the wonderful gratification, the wonderful feelings of already having this, already accomplishing it. And leave the how to for the follow-up. When you open your eyes and move out into the world, now you take little baby steps, one step at a time, in the direction of that predetermined outcome, that goal. This is important. And you can try it out on little things. About 200 years ago, it seems, when I first started playing with self-hypnosis, one of the techniques that I was taught was programming parking places. Have you guys ever messed around with this, programming a parking place? Consider that when you're looking for a parking place, what you have in mind is that I'm not going to find it. That's why I'm looking for it. There are no parking places here. And so what do you get? No parking places here. Remember, you reap what you sow. Life is a dream. So-called physical dense reality is a reflection of your consciousness. So not only do you reap what you sow, but you go where you look and you get what you expect. What goes around comes around. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is the golden rule. Treat others as you'd have them treat you, because that's the law. That's karma. That's universal justice. That's the way it works. So I'm never going to find a parking place. This place is crowded. Maybe you even give up. The hell with it. I go to a movie, I'll go to another store, I'll go to a different one of these stores or whatever. If instead you visualize, now you can't close your eyes while you're driving the car, so you might want to do this quickly at a red light, or before, if you're running some errands, you know, before you leave for the next stop, program the parking place to be there waiting for you. And be specific, not just, I'll settle for any parking place. No, I want you to visualize in your mind's eye exactly where you want to park. I want you to test this out. And even if it only works 4 out of 5 times, that's going to be pretty impressive. Remember, you're a neophyte, you're a beginner at this. So what if it even worked half of the time? I think you'll be surprised. When you visualize the exact spot you want, and then you come up on it, and you got to monitor your thinking. If you dwell on, this is not going to work, this will never work, this is stupid. In fact, if this did work, it's terrifying, the consequences of considering that my whole life is a reflection of my attitude about it. My God, I don't know if I really want to know. I don't know if I can handle that much power and responsibility. If that's where your thoughts are going, all right, once again, you reap what you, don't you see? But if you're willing to consider that's the way reality works, you know, even the Lord's Prayer, the only one Christ ever taught, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in the world as it is in your mind, on earth as it is in heaven. That's whatever, it's a dream. It's a projection. Reality is a mirror reflecting your consciousness. See the parking place, it'll be there. In fact, don't be surprised if the person is backing out just as you pull up with this incredible timing. And give it 3 or 4 chances. If it doesn't work the first time, remember, you're a beginner. I used to program traffic lights, and it got to be too much work. And one day I realized I was being stupid about it. And instead of programming it, the traffic light and having an expectation that every light was going to be green, I just decided I was going to arrive on time. And if I didn't, it would be okay anyway. And that worked much better. So be careful of micromanaging. Go find a balanced view. Again, goals can be broken down into strategies, and even a tactic can be a goal. Or a strategy made up of many tactics. A strategy to get to a goal can be seen as little mini goals. So what's your ultimate goal? You see? And are you flexible enough to change your mind as you approach the goal? As you get closer, you're going to get a better view of it. You're going to see it more clearly. And you may change your mind. You may want to modify it a little bit. That can be a good thing. Again, if you don't hold too tightly to your need for it to be exactly the way you wanted it to be. Dreams, desires, goals are topic for the day today. So again, if you have a question or a comment, you can put it in the chat to Melinda, address your chat to Mindy, to Melinda, and let's open it up.
One.
Yeah, let's open it up.
Hey, Hannah.
As usual, thank you. And I don't know if it's a question or a comment. I'd love to just share the thoughts that came up as you were talking, and, let me know if I'm off base or if I'm, anything to add or whatever. I just like to hear you talk more about these things. So at the beginning, I always think about that book, Comfortable with Uncertainty, with Chema Podrin. And, I've heard it said that, if we can just get comfortable with that, if we can be at ease with the fact that this is not permanent, it'll go a long way to, I don't know, for lack of a better term, being happy along the way. And then just some other things, I thought, what you resist persists, and super duper, it always amazes me how much what you talk about ties into AA and Bill W and whatnot. And we talk a lot about doing the next right thing, but then letting go of the results, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Letting go of your need for the result to look or feel a certain way.
The way you had in mind,
Right. But we need this is the trick. You need the clear, specific goal. When you plant the seed, you want it to be as clear, detailed, and experience it as if you've already got it to the nth degree, to the best of your ability. But then you let it grow, you cultivate it with expectation, and the baby steps, the logical, common sense steps to prepare to receive this foregoing conclusion. But as it arrives, you may be getting what you need enfolded within what you wanted. It's quite likely, right? We are here for a reason, to awaken. So if it's a little bit different, be flexible with that. That's where the acceptance comes in.
Well, there's also seems to be this balance of careful with what you wish for you will surely get it, but also be open to other things arriving with it that could also be very splendid things that we didn't expect. I think if we're too diligent and precise, sometimes we don't even realize more wonderful things that could be,
The blessing in disguise.
Right.
The silver lining in the dark cloud.
Yeah.
The opportunity in disaster. Yeah.
And then if somebody else doesn't have something, then I did want to say one more little thing that I'm really interested in what you have to say on it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I watched this video recently by this guy, Matt Kahn, and it's Everything is Here to Help You. And he talks about like basically just that, like when we're confronted with adversity, but if we can look deep enough and kind of detach a little bit, it's there to show us somewhere where we maybe need to love ourselves more, or something needs some attention. And he talks about,
There you go.
thanking things, like the worst things in our life, just literally say to it, thank you for helping me. Like, even if you don't know what it's helping you with, and then the last part of that I would love to share is that he also talks about how everything always works out. And we always have, like, let's say something's going to work out in 1 year from now. And so we always have the choice between now and that to live as though it's already worked out. Or we can spend our time trifling with it and worrying about it and going in and out of trust and that kind of stuff. So that's it.
Yeah, that's that quality of love and consciousness called patience. In the Bible, it says all things work together for good, as long as you have love in your heart. The love of God is the way it would be said in the Bible. God's love in your heart, or some such thing. That just means as long as you're aware and conscious and aligned and understanding that you're not this separated self out here, banging around like billiard balls on a pool table. Be part of the one life. That's love. And then all things do work together for good. There is that harmony of, and another way I've heard it said is everyone and everything around you is your teacher. So again, when something bad comes up, like illness or disease, what can I learn from this? How can I benefit from this? What lesson is there in this, despite the horrible appearance or maybe the real pain that I'm suffering and going through? For example, let's say someone has arthritis. Again, there are, reasons for this. I don't want to go overboard when I talk about illness and disease and say it's all psychosomatic, but consciousness is an element of everything. So yes, there are viruses and bacteria and parasites and bugs and germs and cooties. There's genetic proclivity and predisposition and mutagens and carcinogens. But what if some significant percentage of arthritis came from inflexible thinking? And we had that revelation in meditation, and we learned to be more forgiving and open our minds and our hearts and become more flexible in our thinking. Perhaps we may still have arthritis, but maybe it's not so bad. Or maybe it's not so painful, or maybe it responds. You look, while I'm talking about it, I'm even doing this. I don't really have arthritis. I have vague ache from time to time, but I'm really fortunate in that regard. I have other issues. Explore your pain. What if your pain and your discomfort was really an ally and a symptom in the deepest sense of being symbolic, not just a symptom, but a symbol, a cue or a clue, just as a physician would use symptoms to find a cause of the illness, or better understand an injury or whatever the situation may be. We can do that metaphysically and look at not only physical ailments and discomfort physically, but our emotional discomfort in the same way. If this were a message, a technique I often use in myself, is I say to myself, if this were a dream, what would it mean? Especially when you get those synchronicities in your life, you see these patterns. And it's possible to go overboard and become a magical thinker. It's not like, everything is a sign from God, but some things are patterns. That's why numerology works and astrology works and tarot cards and I Ching and you can go on and on and on. These
Right,
things.
Michael? We do have a question. I
Hey,
do have a
hold on,
comment.
hold on. Let me finish my thought.
Sure.
These patterns occur as opportunities for us to first recognize the pattern and then say, what is the symbolism in this? What can I learn from this? And then as you learn it, as you understand it, as you awaken to it, then the ailment, the symptom, the problem often falls away. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mindy.
Right, Ignacio had some comments, and Larry has something to add as well. Ignacio was next and then Larry. Thank you.
Let's go to Ignacio then. And I'm glad you're here because I wanted you to talk about sharing. We had a little email exchange, but did you have another question first, Ignacio, or comment?
I think he just has the social media comment. He's still here.
Got to unmute.
Unmute.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Good morning to
Good
all.
Morning.
I love your classes, but I see that very few people come to your channel in YouTube, and I think the classes sadly are going to waste. And actually, as things are at this moment, they are very valuable, and they should be treasured. They could change the world of many people, and we could help the message be spread throughout society, and that would be beneficial for the whole world. The message is, I think, just the right message for this moment, more than ever, since we are heading towards materialism all the way, and spirituality is the balance that we need in the world. So what I have been doing a little quietly is I have been posting some messages in a forum that I visit. I am a listener from KLOS in the 80s, in the 1985, I guess. It was the first time I found you. And I continue with that line. Exactly that line. I found it fascinating, and now I visit a forum, and there is information about wars and intelligence agencies information and everything, all that information, which is a little occult information. And actually, what I said, what I posted was a short message saying, okay, we have had enough information about war and about all the things that are working, and the corruption and all the things that shouldn't be in the world. But have you stopped to think that you should get a little time to rebuild yourself? And then I continued saying something like, I invite you to these classes. You can choose. There is a wide variety of themes of videos that you can choose. You can choose whatever you want. There's a whole wide of information and knowledge to be shared. So you could have it and put it to good use. And then I placed a video, the URL, and then I placed the URL or the link for the classes for your channel. And well, I don't have a social media because I believe in privacy, and that's an issue for me. But what I would like to ask the rest of you, if you are so kind, seeing the world as it is at this moment, I think we could help put our part to do a little, our part to better the world a little bit by spreading this information. So if you have, for example, Facebook, which I don't, you could go to groups and just type something in and then put a link and invite people in, and that's it.
Yeah.
It is not going to take you that long. If you have a Twitter account, you can do the same and just post some short a video, and that's it. It's very easy to share information at this moment, since you can just get a clip. For example, in YouTube, you just get a clip, which is a short version of a video. You find, for example, from minute 117 to 128, Michael said something interesting that can hook up people and bring them to the channel, and then they give you a link for that clip, and then you can paste it whatever you want, and that's it. It's so simple. It's very easy.
Is that something you can do with YouTube or on the YouTube site to edit a clip like that?
Yes.
And where would someone go to find that?
Well, it is on it's below the video that you're going to clip, and you go to the three dots that are on the right side, and then you're going to see different possibilities, and you're going to see the link, that the clip
Okay.
there. Also, what you can do is just look for in YouTube. You can go and search for how do I make a clip, and that's simple. You're going to see it in video, and it's very easy.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to explain this and posting on Twitter or Facebook these clips or the link to the whole program. But I think there's wisdom in taking a little time and making a little clip. It's something that I do have a channel of shorts that I used to do for the radio program. And I could begin to do that. I have to schedule it. It's funny, when you retire, nature abhors a vacuum. So I think of myself as retired, but I'm as busy as I've ever been. But anything that you can do, as Ignacio is saying, to support this, look, it's all free. Everything is free. The radio show is free. I have over 500 podcasts that are free. Not only are the programs free, they're commercial free. And so too, we have the YouTube. But if we can, as Ignacio is saying, the 20 or so people that are here live, the YouTube averages 80 to 140 people per episode. The podcast, 50,000 downloads a month. I have 20,000 subscribers to the podcast. But half of those people are listening to old shows and may not even know about the new class. But anything that anyone can do, or whether you're listening live or YouTube or a podcast, wherever you find this or hear this, to promote this benefits everybody. I think that's the point. It's not just my ego that benefits, right? It's not my pocketbook that benefits. I'm retired. I'm not charging for any of this. It really helps. So use those share buttons, get creative, like Ignacio was saying. So you're talking about just other chat boards and other websites and other blogs, and wherever you see an opportunity, even if they're talking about current events and politics and the usual nonsense, you'll drop in a mention of, hey, let's turn our attention to things that matter here, to the nature of consciousness and
Great
awareness.
topic, Michael. Sorry, Dora Lee has something to riff on Ignacio's point, and then Larry has a comment too. I didn't want to crowd you there, though.
Thank you. Dora Lee. Thank you, Ignacio. You sure you're unmuted, Dora?
No, I was trying to unmute me myself.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I wanted to add something to Ignacio's point, because I am on social media, but I'm usually reading someone else's posts. And I have no idea how to start posting. I know how to post material, but I just have no idea how to start writing catchphrases to bring people to your site. And I'm going to research into that in the next few weeks, because I also used to follow you when I was in my late teens on KLOS. And like I said, I went to the Live and Learn Center, and the meditation that I learned there made a huge impact in my life. It turned my life around when I was struggling through school. So to the point where I'm now created a course that I want to teach that includes learning how to study and incorporating some of the meditation, or just some meditation into learning. So I would like to use that opportunity, I guess, when I'm starting to promote this course, to plug you in and say, this is some of the techniques that I learned at the Live and Learn Center, which no longer exists, but Michael was instrumental in, or very active at that center. And he's the one that started me on the path towards meditation, or whatever it was. But I'm glad he brought it up, because this whole time I've been thinking, how do I plug him? How do I integrate him? And then I received the answer today. Start using them through your YouTube channel or Instagram or whatever in the promotion of your course, to plug them in.
Let me
That's
just
all I wanted to say.
yeah, let me say, besides thank you for that, and I love hearing from people who've been listening to 40 plus years. It's a little daunting to consider how well you must know me at this point after listening to all this material. Don't worry too much about the catchphrase, as you called it, right? Writing something catchy. I really like this class, and I thought you might too, as if you're talking to one person.
Okay.
That's
Got
something
it.
it's something we teach beginning broadcasters. The worst thing a broadcaster can do is, hey, all of you out there in radio land, hello, everybody. And because, you know, the beginning broadcaster loves the idea that they're speaking through the ethers to thousands of people. But the best communicator, whether it's broadcasting, and this goes for YouTube or Twitter or anything else, uses the word you in a singular sense. And if you have that
Okay.
in mind, as if you're talking to one person, it's so much easier. As if you're directing it to a friend, just one person, but in fact, you know, many are going to read it.
I got it.
Then if you want to expand on that a little bit, you certainly can, and get more clever, more creative, find a little hook or a little reason to motivate, but don't let that stand in the way of posting. You know,
Yeah,
just
it
make
has.
you-
I'm in a certain way. I don't know if I can call myself a perfectionist or what the term is, but I don't do things until I know I've done it right.
Michael,
Or-
Larry has been
Or
waiting
perfected.
patiently.
Okay, I gotta go. All right, I'll go
Hey.
myself on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora.
Bye.
Larry, did you say?
Correct.
Go ahead, Larry. Not hearing you if you're
You're muted.
need to unmute.
It doesn't show muted here. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the balance between two ideas. In recent years, I hear a lot of people talking about we should see ourselves as being perfect people. And then on the other hand, you know, we need to constantly grow and look at what we can improve and make ourselves better. Now, those ideas don't seem to be too compatible, but I'd like to hear what you want to say about the balance between those two ideas.
Yeah. It's I mean, I certainly favor the idea of growth over the confusion that may arise from talking about being ultimately perfect already. There is a concept that people write about sometimes called perfect in your imperfection. You're perfectly imperfect. It's just a way of being provocative, I think. But what comes up for me, Larry, when you ask is that our potential is perfect because we are, in fact, in the image of perfection, of the awareness of all that is, of this magnificent universe. And what's beyond this universe? We only know of a physical universe that is confined or contained within the 4 dimensions of space and time. And we already know through quantum physics and the principle of entanglement that there is an existence outside of time, that some things, though at a distance, like elementary particles, quantum particles like electrons, could have a relationship over 100 light years that is instantaneous in its response. So there's something outside as well, other universes, multiverses, who knows? But perfection is our potential. We're obviously imperfect. I'm aware of not only the mistakes that I make, the errors of judgment that I make, the regret and resentment that I feel, the shame sometimes. I've learned to process it, roll with it. Part of what keeps us humble, I think, which is a good place to be, and understanding wisdom as beginning with an awareness of what we do not know, rather than some preoccupation with aren't I smart and don't I know so much. It's really a good idea to always be questioning and wondering. So I think maybe the way to reconcile that contradiction when you read people making these statements or hear people making these kinds of statements is, yes, I am in the image of perfection. My potential is perfection. And maybe even in a relative sense, there's something perfect about the way I exist in this moment, though there is room for growth. It's sort of like that absolute and relative two-truth doctrine that you and I talked about a week or two ago. The relative and the absolute, not an either or. So perfection is our potential. Maybe also we're perfect in our imperfection for this time and this moment, but we're clearly imperfect. Religious people say we're sinners. That just means, sin means to miss the mark, like an arrow that went awry. It doesn't mean you're a bad, deceitful, horrible, corrupt individual. It just means you could do better. So that's where I would come down on that. Thank you for that. Mindy, anything else, or the board's clear?
It is clear.
I'm ready to wrap it up then.
All right, that was a great meditation and a great talk.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's real important to find that balance between accepting things exactly as they are and setting goals.
It doesn't mean we like them when we accept them.
No. But acceptance, as I often say, is a beginning, not an end.
Mhm.
You have to, acceptance means to acknowledge reality. So if you do want to modify it, change it, refine it, or improve it, you still have to accept the reality of the mess you're in, or the mess you've made of things, before you improve upon it.
Yeah, because when we're fighting it, we really don't get anywhere.
No. Hannah said, what you resist persists. Again, the push away is to hold on to, and we want to let go. So you move into it, letting go, let it consume you, let your problems devour you. Even if you think they're going to suffocate you or crush you, you will survive. You're made for this. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. Let me wish you peace, love, and blessings. Mahalo and aloha, namaste, salam. And I wish you would unmute and say your thank yous and farewells to each other. Create this sense of community so we know you're all here. And join us next week. Still haven't decided where we're going to go, but tune in, find out. You get your newsletter on Saturday. So long, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
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 Namaste.
Peace, love.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.